Oh, good morning, Internet. Today I'm with Brandon at Carl's Jr. because we went to church today, and for the first time I haven't gone in like 14 years or something. Or when was the last time you went to like a religion?
No, I gotta think.
So long.
I don't know. It's been so long.
Yeah,
I don't think I've been to church long.
such a long.
Probably decades, honestly.
Yeah. Did I say 14 years? No, it must have been like past 16 years. I know that I've been alive longer not going to church than the time I've been alive going to church is how long it's been. And we got water. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So much.
Well, all right. So we took some notes. So I want to quickly preface, I don't even know where I'm going to put this video, but if anywhere. But I wanted to challenge my bias because, as you guys know, I'm very clearly atheist. But I think that it's important to not live in an echo chamber. And so what I wanted to focus on was specifically the things that are good about people that are different than me. And that way I can get rid of that anti-not me bias, because that's what in-group and out-group bias is. And I think a lot of people have that. So I want to practice to not do that. And Renu suggested that we went to a very specific church that was LGBT friendly. So, you know, we want to start with somewhere that wasn't going to like just kill us upon entering. And so thank you, Renu, if it weren't for you, oh my gosh, I would have been like so scared and just like pick one. But I think this was a really good one. But before we even did a service, I didn't even know there was a meeting at the church about Christian naturalism. And I took some notes on that. But I don't want to like completely take it away. I want to know if Reno, if you have any thoughts on the meeting that we had at the about Christian nationalism at a Christian church. I thought it was fascinating. They were opposed to that.
I thought it was enlightening that they are so opposed and yet admit silence on the issue, saying that they've been aware of it for some time, but even themselves feel a little bit of not embarrassment, but
shame.
Yeah,
Shame. They're like, we should have spoken up sooner.
Correct.
Like, we knew these were lies, so we should let it happen.
Exactly. And that was interesting because I haven't really heard that perspective before, but we knew it was lies. It's always like, well, maybe it does say that in the Bible somewhere. You know, like you should do these like kind of horrific things, right? And so that I thought was really interesting. And I thought that crowd was also very good listeners, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
They were very, very welcoming and trying out other perspectives. They let us speak. You know, they were...
Not like us. We interrupt people all the time, like I just did here right now.
That's our standard bearer thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we roll. But no, so I thought that was really fascinating. I did find some hypocrisy in it in terms of...
For sure.
Yeah. So anyway, but
No, I wanted to hear what you thought was hypocritical.
Well, it's really hard to say that, you know, you think that it's basically a white Christian problem, and then still, I just thought it was fascinating. There was only, you know, for example, there were only 2 people of color there, or maybe 3, right, out of the entire group. And even when we went to the after service, I think I might have been almost a person of color. So it's just, you know, it was fascinating that like then now they're also going to be the like, maybe the police all be the problem. But again, it is kind of an internal problem because they were talking about powerlessness and how they didn't ever want to spread that, and that even the sermon is about how we're all equal and that there shouldn't be preferential treatment and you don't have a social parking in place, you know, everybody's equal. And yet the first kind of sets up that hierarchy, even in the way they manifest who gets to speak at the all, like, you know, he had on silk robes, you know, and like, so it's just very interesting that, you know, immediately when somebody speaks, you already have an idea of who's who, usually it's not like we're all just all level playing field at all. It's not like that. And so that part was interesting to me, that they so easily fall into Pilar, which is kind of exactly opposite. The warrior even says things that are exactly like completely contradictory to what they just said.
Right. And we're still talking about the Christian naturalism ending, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Nobody says so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was surprised. I mentioned a few things that I wanted to embrace their critical thinking a little bit.
Correct. Right. Yeah.
And I didn't want them to know I was atheist, but don't get me out to the rear. So they're like, oh, okay. Because I don't want anyone to think that critical thinking is exclusive to atheism.
Correct.
And that's the problem. But some of the things I said that like really vibe with them was if you can't show it and you don't know it.
Right.
A lot of people are like, oh yeah.
Yes.
Like
I thought they were in agreement with most of the stuff he said. Honestly.
I'm not sure what else I said.
He said about science and how that's something that needs evidence, and that you can't just say,
oh, you should be actively trying to prove yourself wrong. And if what you believe stands up to scrutiny, then you should believe it. And if it doesn't, you should change your opinion given the new information.
Correct.
And what's out that I noticed a good reaction from that.
Yes.
So I was really happy I went to that because if I just went to the service, I'm not sure I could have helped them as much. I mean, we could have talked more afterwards. But we'll get to the service. I'm just going to quickly read down the notes that I took. I wrote that they were very much against Christian naturalism, which was a little surprisingly. There were posters in the lobby saying something akin to like vote with faith, which I thought was interesting. And I needed to know what they meant by faith. And I'll talk about that at the end. They were against biblical literalism. That was great. They're very pro-LGBT. They're pro-facts, which is good. Not alternative facts. Something that was alarming to me, someone said, I'm over 60 years old and I know what I believe. Meaning, like, they are not going to change their mind on anything. I know what I believe and I'm not going to buy it, is what that read.
Only be around work. Yeah, I mean, in context, though, she was saying that she went to the Deep South, and then when the church, she felt like was kind of overly kind of run, but it's like they were all inviting her out to dinner every night, and very soon she realized that it's because they wanted her to come into the fold and say these things at church that they would blatantly say that were Buddhist.
I must have missed that.
So I felt like she really quickly realized that, you know what, I mean, Aaron, I'm listening to this stuff, but I already know what it was. First, you're not going to that's me to go that direction. Like, I'm not going backwards in time. Sure, racism and all.
Okay, so it sounds like
that's how I took it.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know.
Sorry, that was the only sentence that stood out to me, so I completely missed the context. Thank you. So, even though it's like, she's in favor of the right thing with the context, I still believe that statement's alarming. Because if she lives her life by not being racist by the same arguments, she can do it for anybody.
And I do think that as we get older, I'm over 60 as well, and I do feel like we feel like this kind of entitlement is still met. You know what? I'm done.
I thought you were in your 40s.
Special. Yeah, that's right. But
all right, and then after that, I did write that she didn't want to live in the South due to racism. There was a person named Ray talking about how they had rapture trauma during COVID. Yeah. That was interesting. I never heard of that before. It makes sense. Meaning that because COVID was like the sign of the end times, they were afraid that like Jesus is about to come back and like. But like, Margaret, why are you afraid? If Jesus is your Lord and Savior, why would you be afraid?
Well, that's what she was saying, is that was the friend is that maybe you're not close enough to Christ right now. If you're not, go check yourself, because this is cuddle. So you must make sure that you are.
Dude, that sucks. So, they said that there was a rumor that a school shooter were asking if they were Christian, and if they said yes, they'd shoot them.
Yeah.
Amazing. Somebody said, they didn't literally say, but something akin to describing that alpha men are drawn to Christian nationalism. And they were describing a lot of things that fall into in-group and out-group bias. They just didn't have the word to describe it. I really want to bring that up, but I felt like I was already talking too much, so I want to just like limit it.
Yes.
Thank you for pointing out that I was talking too much.
Our entire group, I felt like, kind of was talking to
Yes.
us, right? Because it's like
we didn't even read the book. They were like, what are your guys' thoughts on the book? And everyone was supposedly talking on their thoughts on the book. And
I looked over I leaned over and said, like, I didn't read the book, and you're like, yeah, okay.
none of us did. There was even a point where she's like, does anyone have any statements on the book? And then one of our crowd raised their hand and said something, and like absolutely not about the book. Anyways,
That's the
we are off it. Hello, we're recording right now. You're on YouTube.
Come back to
Yes. All right, so you're on video right now. Yes.
Listen.
All right, so
Yeah, there you go. You're right.
let's see. So they were against indoctrination in Peru,
Yes.
which was fascinating.
They were kind of a lot of the same things were prompt,
Yes.
right?
Now, I don't know if they were against indoctrination for their own beliefs.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it.
That's why I said apparently. But indoctrination is okay as long as it's what you believe. The South is in an echo chamber, essentially, is what was said. The church fighting against binary thinking, I think that's great. Church needs to dedicate and support love, is something that someone named Avery said. They're seemingly pro-choice, which I was surprised by.
I was super shocked by that. Honestly, I did like all the references to art.
The art?
To the grayscale, to Ansel Adams, and that you can't really have a picture that's representative if you don't have the gray, if you only have black and white, which was along with the binary thinking. She was saying that if you have just black and white, it doesn't give you the full perspective. You need the gray to really see the picture. So
Gotcha.
I thought that was interesting, and I thought the pixelation thing she said was interesting, that we're all individuals, and yet with all the little pixels formed the picture. She tried to frame it several ways.
Yeah, it was interesting. I take things very literally, and she was saying things that were like, light is both a wave and a pixel, and I said softly to myself, "You mean particle?" Because it's not a pixel. Real life is not pixels. But like the gray thing.
Of course, Bryce would say that.
But like the analogy is still false, because on any display that isn't black and white, you do get gray with red, green, and blue lights with LEDs that can turn into gray.
Okay, but Bryce, are we dealing with like the general perception?
Of course. So anyways, I'm glad that everybody else got the message but me. So that's fine. I just like, I don't know what you're saying. But that was essentially the Christian nationalism meeting. It was great. I wouldn't be opposed to going again in the future.
Yeah.
But
The third session next Sunday.
yeah. And now the service, I for sure never going to do again. But I'm glad that I did the whole thing now, so I know why I'm never going to do it again. Because if I left early and then they were like, "Hey, you missed the part where they hailed Satan at the end," I'd be like, "Dang it!"
Yeah.
So, anyways, so what we're reviewing, I guess, is the St. Stevenson's
Episcopal Church.
Episcopal Church is the name of the church. And I know you said you didn't have a lot to say. All I'm going to do is just like read off my notes, but I really wanted to get your thoughts. It seemed like you were not liking it.
Right, because I felt like I don't like to say not liking it. It's just it felt like a waste to be there when there's so much hypocrisy going on. Like I felt like there's no room for question there, and yet
Right.
It's such a blatant. I mean, it was just so blatant that in one perspective you're saying go out there and dispel the lies and do the work, but you couldn't really do it. Be strong and do it, but you really can't do it without Jesus, and you really can't do it without all these other things, if you don't do God. And I mean, he insinuated that in most of the prayer, even though his sermon, I kind of wish that his sermon was the prayer because I would have understood it. But then he would follow every time he said that with, now let's pray. And the prayer would be just like, you can't help yourself. You can't do anything. You've sinned, and it was like, wait, what? Like, that's just completely antithetical to what you just said. And so I found that kind of fascinating that even though she is so progressive in a lot of ways, right? But he would fall back on those teachings and try to act like those actually supported what he just said. They didn't.
The pastor is gay, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. And he's super nice and super friendly and lemon. I don't know how he does it.
That's why we win.
We don't know how he does it. But actually, Bryce asked really several good questions, so maybe you want to go through things. But one more thing I wanted to I found it really interesting that they're very anti the violence, and they talked about that both. They talked about being like, you want to talk about peace and love. He mentioned those things in the sermon itself, that you want to be bringing people into the fold and treating them with love and with peace and with respect. And yet, to me, it's just such a... I think I just take it on because in that sense, I'm literal about the pictures on the wall being about Jesus, like basically on a cross and thorns on his head when he's so violent. And I feel like those are what your little kids are looking at when they come to church. Like, how is this still in 2024 how you represent?
To be fair, I didn't see a picture of Jesus on the wall. I did see crosses.
Oh, no. It's the whole him going up what is that called? When he walked up. When they put the thing on him and then he had to bear the cross, all of those are in pictures along the whole wall and on both sides. And I was like, okay, they're a little bit modern. They're doing that in hair, and it's black and white, by the way, not gray. So it's like black and white, like kind of very modernized photos of but it's still him. And it's like in one, he's got the cross and the neck is bent. And I'm thinking, I don't know, I was kind of gasping, like, I would not want to show my kids this. That's how I felt. But, there's kids in the audience and, I'm waving to them and it was all good. But I felt really, that's what it felt so, such a disconnect with what you're saying versus what is pictured, like, all over the walls. And, even the cross, like, being still there, it's great. But, the cross being there is such a symbol of violence, really, in a lot of ways. Yeah,
I wasn't going to go into this, but I was going to say cross, but I'm so confused on why does murdering your God mean that you now get forgiveness?
Liberate, yeah.
Like that was the good thing to do. And you got rewarded for it. I don't. What part of it's not only a non sequitur. It's like a blatant contradiction.
It is.
I don't understand what. And also, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of actual humans that did a lot more of a sacrifice than Jesus did.
Also,
these guys are super against reparations and things like that.
Yeah, I think the Jews about 100 years ago went through a lot worse than what Jesus ever could have done.
Well, didn't you find it fascinating, too, that he said that, you don't get a special place at the table and that's not how it's supposed to work. And yet that's exactly what we were doing, kind of, right? Because it's like then he said right after that Jesus died for us, basically, like one of the prayers. And I'm thinking, well, wait a second. No, that's not what you just said.
You want to reference any of your notes? I'm gonna read just what I wrote. Service started. They sang. You can look it up yourself. They went to Isaiah 53, 4 through 12, and then Hebrews 5, 1 through 10. Lily sang some more, and then they went to Mark 10, 35 through 45, just so you could look it up yourself. What was told, and I could look it up later. Then they prayed, and then I stopped taking notes on what they did because I realized it was in there the whole time. And then the service started off with him talking about proclaiming preferred status. He's like, "Isn't it great when you get first class on a flight or some shit?" And I'm like, "Where's this going?" And I actually don't know where it went.
You also, he was saying that Jesus didn't believe that, and that's why when nor the two apostles who sat on each side, John and somebody else. Anyway, you guys would know, but
okay.
That's it. they themselves, the disciples themselves, got a preferential treatment because they were vying for Jesus's what was going to happen after he died, and they were missing the whole point that he was going to be crucified in this horrible, torturous way.
Yeah, I'm sure those of you who are watching that are religious think I'm very biased. I might be, but I really try to get through this like as unbiased as possible. I'm glad that Renu pointed out the Jesus on the wall. I completely missed that. I was mainly just focusing on like anything that's good that they say, and then anything that they said that I just kind of questioned. To me, there wasn't anything that was like blatantly horrible in the service. I'm sure if I went to another church, like there would be like some like alarming things. I went to AA not too long ago. I never drank before, but just went like out of curiosity to see what they did. And there's like hundreds of red flags there. Really, really bad. Like you cannot get healed without Jesus. Like preach. And like, oh boy, that's awful.
Do they do
At AA?
Yeah, because my guys let me do. They said it's a god of your choosing, so I chose trees.
Yeah, and they're like, but it has to be a higher power. There's no option to be atheist. So let's see.
It's like, not going to drink because can't go to AA.
Yeah, exactly. That's why. That's the only reason.
Works.
So I wrote, Jesus gets frustrated.
Yeah.
I mean, the all-knowing like gets frustrated. Like, does Jesus not know everything beforehand that he would have to be frustrated about? And then they said, we believe in the one God. Who is the one God? Is it Jesus or Jehovah? Which one? It's a choice to genuinely want to see others thrive, is something that they said. That's a nice message. I feel like I just want... Is that a choice? I guess in their lore, it is a choice. They believe that there's good and there's evil, and you actively choose to do good. But in actuality, we evolved to just always want good naturally. But
well, that was the interesting part, right? That you couldn't really do it without a higher power. You couldn't want good, or you couldn't be good, or you couldn't act without having these prayers and making sure that you know that it's not just you, that there's a higher power. But I think that most of us want to live in healthy communities where we're not shitting each other and where we are liked and loved and where our kids grow up to be decent people.
yeah.
So that was interesting.
In the sermon, there was things that were pro-trans. Amazing. Awesome. In the sermon, indirectly promoting Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Holy shit. That was not on my bingo card. That is awesome.
Without saying her name, though.
Yes, without actually saying her name. Indirectly. But he's like, there's one thing that's going to give us democracy, and then there's other that's not. And like, what else could you possibly be talking about? Then this pissed me off for a completely non-religious reason. Literally be the hands and feet of Jesus. Sam, no, it's not literal. It's metaphorical. Holy crap. Okay. And then in the song, or it was in a prayer or something, I was reading off of the thing you were showing me.
Yeah.
It seems like they define God as Jehovah, Lord as Jesus, but Holy Spirit is...
Yeah, what is that again?
I don't know. I've been trying to figure out what they mean by the Holy Spirit forever.
I feel like
just
your
the
songs,
church, just like every...
I feel their songs are confusing, and also not just confusing, but, kind of, so my son is a musician, is a musician, right? And sometimes you just make up words that rhyme and they don't really fit, and that's what I felt like so a lot of the songs. I'm like, wait, what?
That was the new song. I don't think so. It was a prayer.
It might have been a prayer, too.
But I just...
like, the rhyming stuff, I'm like, wait, where are you going with this?
Prayer like a poem, right? So, sure, whatever. Especially Tom. There was like a prayer that was like,
okay,
we pray like goodness for everyone, but especially Tom.
But that,
and I'm sure there's some context in the church that like like Bryce, his family died. You're gonna feel really bad about that. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sure there's probably a reason, but Rita and I were totally lost. Why specifically Tom?
Well, and the one right before that, she named 3 women who had done something. So I think they're trying to take something that maybe is not completely understandable if you just look at it as way out there somewhere and make it very personal, because these are concrete people that people know because it's their community, right? And so they did it for, Tom or for Mabel or whoever they were doing it for. And so that prayer was made more personal. I think that's why I don't know. I couldn't figure that out either. It was like, wait, who's Tom?
Yeah. I'm glad about
looked at each other like, who's Tom?
On one hand, it's like you do that so you make them come back because they feel away. But also, like, I think it's good that you made them feel special. God loves everyone, but especially Tom today. Interesting.
What about the birthdays was like that too? I was like, where's that?
I'll get to that. So they spent a portion confessing their sins to the all-knowing God. So how do you have to confess to if he already knows?
True.
I'm so confused. There was a 15-second portion where we greeted one another. That was nice. The church seemed a little rather empty. I'm curious if they had like bigger audiences at some point, but like,
well, it's a whole home audience, That's why the cameras.
Okay.
And that's why they give you this thing so you can read along.
It felt like the church was 10% its capacity.
And then
at best.
Like maybe not even that.
Not even that.
Right. Right.
There is and then they just started to talk about things that they did for the community. Truck or treat yesterday. That's cool. LGBT group. Awesome. They have the church open for election day for prayer. I'm sure some people need that.
He said, and some people will need help. Maybe they might need spiritual help. Like, it is a spiritual, but they might need help coping, I guess, the day of or the day after. I think like that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's good.
Nothing wrong.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I'm really glad that there's somewhere a safe space for people to go with that are distraught.
And then they celebrated the weekly birthdays. That's nice. They're really getting to know their
congregation.
Congregation. That's what's called. And then it wrote, still confused on what the Holy Spirit is. And then this is a Catholic church.
What's the book? I don't know. It's one of the many flavors of Christianity, but it's not the Catholic Church at all.
Or you guys can tell me in the comments if this ends up going to YouTube or something. If the ones that have the wine and the bread, is that the Catholic one, or is that just like regular?
Yeah, that is the Catholic.
Yeah, because that was there.
The body of Christ and that.
I swear they said Catholic at one time. The word Catholic.
They did in one of the songs. Or one of the things, they said it. They said something else too, but they said about Catholics, and it's kind of like, why are they saying that?
Yeah.
But I obviously don't understand. So
is it a Catholic church? Who knows? Maybe. Okay. I want to bring this up. Argumentum ad mysterium is a logical fallacy that happens when you experience chanting or singing, or you're in a big crowd. This could happen at a concert, but is specifically with religion. It's this feeling that I'm in the right place because I get this special feeling of community, and this can't not be true if I'm feeling these things. But you will feel that in any place that does that. So it is I don't think they definitely don't know that logical fallacy. It's not on purpose, but is an unintended consequence of how singing worse. It will convince you that it's true just because you get that special feeling. But go to an Imagine Dragons concert and you'll feel the same thing. There was in the song, they mentioned the Trinity.
Oh, a lot of times.
I only saw it once.
No, it's in there a lot.
Okay, so I'm like,
that's part of the Holy Spirit thing that you don't understand, that I don't understand either. But yeah, they mention it a lot.
Okay. They said Jesus rose, and then that was on the day that is now the beginning of the week.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Okay.
So that's Sunday? So Jesus rose on Sunday? That's is that in scripture, or did they just make it up at one point? Who knows?
I didn't catch that. Okay.
I wanted to say about when you're going to talk about the cross. At least what I heard was that the cross that they depict is not probably the cross that was used at that time by the Romans. Wouldn't actually look more like a T. So their cross might even not be the right one.
Oh no, yeah. Yes.
How about you?
In the song, the song. There's a lot of songs. What did I say? There were a lot of songs, but in one of the songs, they were saying Hosanna. I don't know who that is.
Saying that one?
It was broken up into syllables, but it was like to dash son dash na, and I'm like, who is that? Is that a person? I don't know. Never got to that. The programs are nice. I like that they basically have every prayer, all the songs, everything in there. So they basically had subtitles for the whole thing. That's great. I just think that's a nice accessibility thing. They are definitely waiting for Jesus to come back. They break literal bread. I thought that was fun. Thanksgiving is not the American thing. They use the term Thanksgiving a lot. And that was what breaking the bread was, where they gave us a wine and bread. Or was that not Thanksgiving?
Maybe. I didn't look at it as that. I looked at it as that's something they do probably at every single one. I don't think that, or do they do Thanksgiving and call it that at every single one? That's not, I think that's taking communion, right? At the Catholic Church. I don't know what it is at the Episcopal Church. I'm not sure what it's called, actually. They have it in here, what the breaking of the bread is. So, I could look for it, maybe. Because, see the invitation to Holy Communion work. And that's when you do the, you think that's the actually like bread.
Okay.
But
I wrote down that I wanted to ask them the definition of faith, just so I wouldn't forget. So I did at the end. Okay.
So, yeah, that part was kind of, I felt like a lot of it actually was steeped in tradition. And
for sure.
The traditional part, though, doesn't always equate well or doesn't kind of mesh well with what it was actually saying. And I found that interesting because I thought it would be a much more seamless, like I felt like when he would say things, then the prayer that followed should somehow support that.
Right.
And yet it kind of, for me, was jarring. I was like, wait, that didn't work. Like, that's not working for me. And yet I feel like the congregation and the people who come there normally are so used to those prayers. They know all the words. They know all the words to the songs. They don't have to look at it like us. They didn't have to read off of the song sheet. And so for them, I think it is meaningful, even if it is just that feeling of like, okay, I'm in a community and I feel like I belong here and it just feels good. It feels right, So if that part, I mean, I'm not going to knock that. If that's what it does for people, it's just it didn't do it for me because it was so glaringly different from what he just said. So
the people there were very kind. There was a person next to me named Ray that was helped me through a lot of the stuff, the traditional stuff, because I had no idea what was going on. And they're like, okay, this is where you get the bread and the wine, and I'm like, is there alcohol in the wine, like a literal wine? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not drinking that. But I'll take the cookie. I'll take the bread thing. I'll take that.
Saw that.
And then
I want to taste the bread. I'm like, I don't think that's how it works. Price.
Look, I was there. What are they gonna do? Sue me? So they're like, okay, so you go up and then you like get down on your knees and you do this, and then they give you the thing. And then I'm like, okay, well, do I have to do that? And they're like, or you can cross your arms and it won't give you the cookie and they will bless you. And I'm like, is there a third option? And they're like, you can just do nothing and not get the cookie. I'm like, I want the bread. And they're like, okay, well, you could just go up and then take it and go back to your seat, I guess. I'm like, that's what I'm doing. And so, yeah, Reno just saw me do it, just walked up there, did not get on my knees like I was supposed to, and just after the thing.
I didn't that either.
No, they did.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Or they did, sorry.
Yeah.
Left in with pronouns.
That's okay. And then they just took it, and then I came back, and then I offered to share, and Reno wisely declined because it was awful.
But
no, I would have rather.
It's going to be awful. I would have warned you, but I didn't know.
No, I didn't know either. And so for science, I can now tell you, don't eat it.
It's awful. Only God knew.
Yeah, only God knew it was going to be awful. I really, they were very accommodating because some of the people that couldn't get up there to get the cookie, like he just like gave, like he went to them who were like in a wheelchair, and like that was very nice. And so I wrote lore. This is my impression of what the lore is. God works through people so they can do good, so they take accountability to some degree, and when they mess up, they want God to forgive them. And then, after it was all over, I went to the pastor, Christopher, and asked him to define faith. And his first answer was, it's akin to trust. And so I asked, is it an absolute synonym to trust, or are there differences? And he said, well, nothing's absolute about faith, but basically, no, it's not an exact synonym, is what he's saying. And so...
Synonym, not cinnamon.
Did I say synonym?
That's how I say it.
F's in the chat.
In my life.
All right, so then I then asked him, what is something that is exclusive to faith that is not also within trust?
Great question.
Let's exclusively define faith. If there's some overlap with trust, get rid of the trust. What's left? And he was really puzzled on this one. In fact, he tried to like dismiss me to answer it later, not in front of a crowd.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And because he's afraid of the answer is what I think. But I'm like, this is my only question. So I'm like telling him like, answer this, I'm out of here. And so he's like, okay, fine. And he said, faith is an affirmation. And then I'm like, okay. And then he's like, faith takes a leap. And then he really got down to it, and I was waiting for him to say it, and then he said it. He said, faith is for the things that you don't see and you don't know. Oh, that was it. That was the blatant dishonesty. And he just straight up said it. And I'm like, great.
Thank you.
That's all I want. That was it. Yeah, that's all my notes. Were there any of your notes that you want?
I think you pretty much covered everything that I mean, I don't even have as extensive notes as you, but I just thought that it was interesting about the certain things that they say that they are for, you know, the peace and the love and the welcoming everybody. And yet there is still some exclusivity to the sermon. I don't feel like somebody who's not Christian, as a person who's not Christian, and didn't go regularly to church, I felt like, yes, it's welcoming, but there is this kind of, even for me, right? I'm not a believer, but this feeling of like, okay, you know, there's something hierarchical about this, and that if I only knew these rituals of like having to walk down when you're supposed to walk down with this, whatever it is, the chalice and the whatever, you know, then the altar boy was walking down, and it's a very ritualistic, and you can tell that you have to know those things. Like if I knew when I was supposed to stand up and look the other way, and if I knew that, I would feel much more comfortable. But because I don't know that, I feel like, yes, it's something awe-inspiring that's above me that's supposed to, and like, I feel like I shouldn't even feel that way, because it's just, what? It's silly, kind of, right? Like,
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, to me, I have, I'm going to say, recently graduated from the idea of like being like disgusted by it. And now I'm like, okay, I don't need to worry about it because it's fake. And now I could treat it as like a mythology. And so I'm interested in learning what they believe in the same way that one might be interested in learning what Greek mythology is all about. So that's kind of the way that I took it.
and I mean, I feel that way in my own faith. So I feel like, well, the one I was raised in. So like,
Which is what?
Hinduism.
Hinduism.
So like when I go to something that's Hindu and they're saying a bunch of stuff in Sanskrit, which I don't understand.
I would love to learn a little.
And then they are like, tell you, okay, especially if you're new to the congregation, they'll say, sometimes I'll just go because I like the food and I like the people, and it's community. So I like the colors, and it's familiar, which is maybe the reason most people go to these things, right? You feel it's familiar. So once in a while you crave that, I go, and then they'll be like, oh, because you're the new person here, why don't you go ahead and do it first? And it's like, okay, except that I have no idea what I'm doing, and it makes that awkwardness. And I felt that same way in church, like that I feel kind of like, okay, I'm kind of below you because I don't know these things, and maybe there is like some higher, and then I just stop myself and say, this is like ridiculous that they have these weird little things that you have to do for your prayer to be heard properly or something. I don't get it. Like, even just going to there and you
already know. Yeah. Why do you have to tell him? He already reads your fucking mind.
Yeah, so that was interesting. But I thought they were very welcoming and accommodating. I don't think they really go really heavy into, well, wait a second, the stuff that you're not agreeing with, like that you don't agree with Christian nationalism, you don't agree with homophobia, you don't agree with racism, and yet, yeah, your very book and the things that you are praising right now absolutely have things in there that condone that behavior.
Yeah, a little more traditional than I was expecting, especially given how liberal they are.
Right. So it's interesting, right? But in another way, it's interesting because they are so organized. And a friend of mine recently said this. She's a homeschooler, and she said, as an atheist, it's really hard to homeschool because you don't have a place to meet. They get a place. They don't have to rent out a hall. They get it for free. And same thing with the voting thing. And that's why I was really, really happy that he said those things, because when Bush and Trump and whoever won, they had an automatic.
Wait, what things it was?
But he said that there's one side that's for democracy and there's a side that clearly isn't, and you're voting for that. And come November, it's a pretty big deal. That's it. And so I felt like he pretty much was saying, like, go vote for the side that wants you to have democracy. And so I feel like that, though, in the past. Yeah, they don't have to find a place because they already go to this thing on Sunday and it's already organized, and it's organized all over the country, and the message is being put out all over the country. They right there, without having any expense to anybody, already have that message going out. Same with the homeschoolers. And that's why you find so much of that in homeschooling, where the Christians are very into the homeschooling. But if you're any other faith even, let alone outside, if you're secular and outside of faith and want to not do that, it's very hard to organize and have play groups and have readings and have anything. So that the fact that they're so organized is really commendable, I think. And I wish that we had that for non-Christians.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So that was interesting.
That'd be great to have. That is why I actually seeked out the Santa Clarita Atheists and Free Thinkers, because I didn't even know that any such thing existed. But I'm like, there's got to be something that, or Satanism or something. But no, there's no satanic temple in Santa Clarita yet.
Christ is going to be the founder.
I don't know about that. But I don't want to pour in people too much. I'm really all about, like, I really want to bring people together, and so this whole journey was about me stepping outside my comfort zone. And oh my God, thank you so much, Lenu, for coming with me. Because I was scared to do this.
It's a mess. No, I'm just kidding.
But
I was very skeptical about it. I was like, oh, I don't know if I should be doing this. I don't know.
But now that I've done it, now I'm ready to see. Just next time, because I wanna go somewhere that's slightly less liberal than this one. I don't want to like jump right to the lion den immediately.
Going to evangelical
meetings up here,
So I want to. I through this journey, I have learned that, like, me and them have a lot in common. But there's also those, I wanted to ask the one question, like, what do we disagree on? And, like, just faith being a good thing. When you're getting right down to it, the separation from faith from trust. What does faith have that trust doesn't? And it's just like lies.
And I felt like so close to some of them. And then but in my head, I was wondering, like, what attracts you to this? Because what you're saying is basically what we say. But we say
it's arguments of ad mysteria.
But then they end on the part about the Jesus and God part. But we're saying the same things, that, like, yeah, the people who are less fortunate, like, let's see them lifted up. Like, we're only as strong as our, weakest link, really. Or they're saying the same thing, except then they always add on the part about, but you have to give in to Jesus and God.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you won't be able to do that.
To be fair, I did not literally hear them say that.
I didn't say that literally, but they did say the Jesus and God part right after they say the first part.
But I'm curious to go to a church that would literally say that. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to, like, fault them for not literally say
Right,
it.
right.
Like they can, yes, it's implied. Yes, definitely there's faith everywhere.
Right.
And so I wanted to make sure, like, when you say faith, when you preach faith, what are you saying?
Right.
What are you telling people is okay? And to believe in what you don't see and just believe in what you don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
There it is.
there it is. I hope you'll be open to doing this again at a different one. You don't have to promise anything.
These guys are good too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want you to promise anything you don't want to, but yeah, I want to do it again. So if I were to give this church a rating out of 10, 10 being like most reasonable to 0 or 1 being, let's do 1. 1 least reasonable. Considering this is, in your opinion and from what you've heard, the most liberal church like
In
around.
Santa Clarita, yes. That's what I've heard.
Yeah. Considering all of that and the really tries to dodge the faith question that I asked him. And that was the one question. I didn't ask anything else. Considering he wouldn't admit it until I like got it out of him.
Yeah.
I would have to give them maybe like an 8 or a 9. Like I would say they're pretty reasonable. It's just like aside from this is all true. And like I like that they focus on like the lessons because I've seen videos as you guys have seen on one of my channels that of reacting to a preacher just blatantly like explaining how evolution is false, how Big Bang is false to everyone, and I'm like, this is damaging.
But don't you feel like in a church, that's I guess what I was getting at, is that there's no really room to just say like, wait, like hold
Right.
right there, because that just doesn't seem right. If that the way that it's set up.
I love that you do that though, because in one atheists and free, yeah, in the Santa Clarita Atheists and Freethinkers meeting, somebody said a thing that you weren't all down for, and this wasn't a preach time. It was, hey, I think you're full of shit.
I didn't say those words, by the way.
No, yeah, but not literally that, but like in essence that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like the way it's set up. Right, but I mean, I think that's the whole great thing for him, right? For I mean, he's a great guy and everything, but I think for the preacher, for Christopher, that's the great thing, is that nobody really can question you at that moment,
Yeah.
right? And that's a great, you have a captive audience that's just sitting there. And I think even that part, the fact that...
Which is all argument from authority.
Right, but the fact that nobody can say anything and nobody does say anything, I think the rest of us are all looking at each other like, well, I guess that must be true then, because nobody's standing up and saying like, hey, wait, no.
It's a combination of fallacies. It's argumentum ad mysterium, the mysterious thing. It's argument from authority. He must know something we don't know, otherwise he wouldn't be wearing that.
Right.
And then argumentum ad populum. No one's going to speak up against it, and so we're all just going to take it on faith.
Yeah, we kind of look around, and I was like, I was hoping that people were maybe rolling their eyes or just kind of going like, okay, that can't be right. But then,
No, just you and me.
yeah, but I just looked at you and like, what? Like, what are they saying? But then that was only, I tried not to look at you, honestly, because I just wanted to look at, and then I love the little kid who was just waving through the whole thing and doing the 1s and the 2s and stuff. I was like, okay, he gets it. This isn't that important, you know? But, you know, I just feel like, yeah, the way that they set it up even is that, you know, there's one person in the front. It's not like you're in a circle or anything. And it's like, yeah, there's a hierarchy there, and what he says goes. And it's not like you can raise your hand even in the middle of the sermon. You wait till the end. And in fact, when you asked that question at the very end, when everybody was leaving, which was like when he kind of meets and greets at the very end, when he wanted to dodge the question, he said, well, I don't mind having that conversation later, but let me greet some people. And I'm thinking, there's only like one person in London that wants to greet you. He only has 30 seconds.
Answer this one question.
I'm glad you said it, because I thought you were going to say, yeah, fine, let's later.
Hell no.
And you were like, no, I only have this one question.
This is the one thing I asked you.
Which was great, because I was ready to like leave. I was like, well, I think we're just going to not get an answer to that. Let's go. But no, Bryce wasn't having it. So that was good.
Yeah. So And I also wanted to save like lower ratings for potentially worse churches. So like as far as it could be, I'm going to give it a final score of 8 out of 10
Sounds good.
for this church. On a scale of reasonability, out of entertainment, that's very, very low, obviously. Not our thing, but we don't want to go early, but I'm like, I want to stay, and thank you for staying.
Yes. You're welcome. Yeah, I was ready to go when they were like, okay, now we're going to do the body of Christ and the blood of Christ.
And it didn't last that much longer after that. That was pretty much it.
Out of here.
Yeah. What would you give it out of 10? Out of a scale of reasonability, how reasonable would you say the people are? Obviously, the sermon's complete lies.
Well, I thought the people were super reasonable, but that is based on going to the pre. Had I not gone to the Christian nationalism thing, I don't know, because they were listening to this stuff and eating it up. But if
At another church, we would probably have to stay for a little while and like actually talk to people,
right? So
figure out what they think.
Only because I'd gone to the the pregame, and so if I hadn't gone to the pregame show, knowing that okay, they're very anti-Christian, well,
we could for another church, we couldn't show up maybe 30 minutes early, and because they're the people who come there early are more likely more dedicated,
possibly.
And we could talk to them before and after.
I thought they were super friendly and super accommodating, and I would probably, for the people themselves, give them a 9 out of 10. I just think that they're irrational to believe what they believe, considering what they're telling me, that they don't believe in this stuff. And then, so only for that reason, I'd probably give them a 9, and also because I haven't gone to church in forever, so it's weird to rate something that I have no basis to rate it on. I haven't been to a single other church here. Sure. So I'm hoping that there is, I'm thinking.
Well, we're going to compare the other churches to this one.
My rating might change, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you give it at least a 9. Very good.
I mean, for the people, you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only reason that I, at the end decided an 8, and I know this is unreasonable to expect, but I was thinking, even after they knew that they were atheists there, that they would say, and for those who want to join in prayer can do this. But no, it was, everyone join us in prayer.
Oh, there was something I wrote in my notes about that where they say, it was one of the things where they say everyone. And it's always like all or nothing. And that's not how it is, right? It's like, no, you just now said that there's all colors of the rainbow, and then on the other,
and then not.
And then not. So, yeah.
So, yeah, I would give it an 8 out of 10. You still give it a 9 out of 10?
Right now, because I don't have anything to compare it to. I haven't gotten anything. So I feel like...
All right. That's that. Well, if you guys, hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you very much. And until next time, later days.